BBC Radio Sheffield.
Because as we've been talking about today, we've found out that our region is going to get millions of pounds in levelling up funding. It's government money to help areas which have fallen behind. Sheffield, Doncaster, Bradford, Leeds and Wakefield are all going to get funding. And the big money has gone to the Penistone railway line. £48 million is going to be spent on improving the line between Huddersfield and Sheffield. Now, currently, the train, I do know this because I'm one of the people who would use this from time to time. The train from Sheffield to Penistone takes 45 minutes. You're quicker driving, genuinely. It's a right rickety old nonsense. So this was a joint bid by the Penistone and Stockbridge MP Miriam Cates and her Conservative Party colleague Mark Eastwood, who's the MP for Dewsbury. Miriam's on the line. We'll speak to her shortly, but first of all, Mark, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Toby.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. 48 million quid, this is not small change. What's it going to be spent on?
It's fantastic news. Fantastic news for the whole Penistone Line from Huddersfield to Sheffield. It runs through 8 constituencies. This is the first phase of the upgrade. And you mentioned earlier, Toby, that the time it takes is 40 minutes from Penistone. It takes a whole lot longer to get from Huddersfield to Sheffield. But what we actually need in the future is a half-hourly service rather than an hourly service, so we can get people to get out of their cars and travel from my constituency. If they need to get to Leeds or to Sheffield, they'll go on the train. And it's all about, the net zero and protecting the environment as well as, getting people onto public transport. So this is the first phase, and what it will do, and you'll be pleased to hear this if you're using the line, is it will significantly improve the performance and the reliability of the service. I was at Denbydale Station yesterday having a look at the line, and the train was 25 minutes late that was due in at Denbydale, so it's much needed improvement in performance and reliability. And also the stations will be upgraded as well. I've got a station in my part of the constituency called Shepley, and one of the platforms does not have disabled access, and this will take care of that. So it's great news all round, really.
We are used to talking about railway issues, mainly round about cities. I've talked in the past about how I once took a train from Newcastle to Manchester, which took me 3 hours, which is ridiculous. I had to change at York, and we all know the HS2 debate that's taking place. But we forget, don't we? Now, we've mentioned this on here quite a few times on Sheffield. In fact, we used to do some outside broadcasts from farms. Even though we are very much an urban setup, within 50 kilometres of the middle of Sheffield, there are 50,000 jobs in agriculture. The villages and the countryside need serving, doesn't it?
It does. And too often, you're right, some of the mayors, they may have been guilty, South Yorkshire Mayor and the West Yorkshire Mayor, guilty of focusing too much on the cities. I have to say, and credit where credit's due, my local council, Kirklees, have been involved in this bid. They've been supporting it since 2018. Actually, what this does is it helps alleviate the travel across the Pennines from places like Huddersfield, from Manchester to Leeds, down to Sheffield, and it will help with the capacity as well. What it really does is to make sure that these rural areas that run through 8 constituencies, that they're able to get access to a regular public transport, and that's brilliant for all the constituents.
When, excuse me, my voice has been awful this weekend. When do we start to see this money being spent, Mark?
So, we've got to have this up and running by 2026. So we've got 3 years, but, the kind of level of construction that is required on this one is we're quite capable. I've been assured by Kirklees Council we're quite capable of being done by that 2026 deadline. Because if you don't use the money, you lose it. And what we need after that is we need the West Yorkshire and South Yorkshire Combined Authorities to help fund the next phase so we can get to that magical half-hour service.
And there is a bit of that, isn't there? I mean, you've mentioned Oliver Coppard, who's the South Yorkshire Mayor, of course, who is a Labour Mayor, and we do know that in the interim period there's going to be a hotly contested general election. For most of us who spend, for the 90% of us who don't spend our days thinking politically, really, we just need this to happen. We need there to be joined up thinking between you and Oliver and the councils, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely, and actually, not just the councils, not just the West Yorkshire and the South Yorkshire Mayor, but all the MPs. And I have to say, this is an example of what can happen when you've got cross-party support. No one on the line, any of the MPs, any of the mayors, have objected to this. And as I say, I've been working with the local council, or a Labour-run council, and I gave them a hard time in Prime Minister's question last week, but, credit where credit's due, and we've all worked together, and this is what can happen if you work on a cross-party basis.